I'm very interested in the dynamic. If this was English football, local guys playing for the local team would be a really big deal. Is it the same for you two guys, Connor?
100%. I think that's what makes playing for your local club so special. And for Sean and myself, for me, getting to play, we both grew up in the stands watching this team, from young players. We were fortunate enough to play in the academy, and then to play for the first team is incredible. And Sean has the absolute honor of being the first homegrown captain ever of the Red Bull, so I'll let him speak to that. But yeah, to play for your hometown team, it's you can't put a price on that. It's truly special, and I'll let Sean give a little bit more info there.
Yeah, but Sean, is it ingrained through the family? Is it did you kind of grow up, Sean, with mum and dad or siblings that were supporters as well? Because that's when you can start to get real pressure, when your own family start digging you out about results and things.
Yeah, so I think Connor and I were actually great friends. And, when I was a young player in the academy, I would train with the first team, and Connor was there. And so to see his development from an academy player to a first team player to now in the front office, you can tell how much he loves and enjoys working with the club. And for me personally, I actually don't come from a crazy soccer background. I actually really admire that about English culture. But a funny story that I told when I first joined the club was that, I'm not sure many people know this, but before Red Bulls, they were called the Metro Stars. And when I was playing rec soccer, which is like the lowest level of soccer when you're a kid, the jersey that I first wore was a Metro Stars jersey, and my mom was the coach. And I don't know if it works like this in England, but in America, at halftime of youth soccer, you get orange slices. So I just remember that, my mom being my first coach, not really knowing much. She's still learning about the offsides rule. But, it's a huge honor to play for this club. And, I think that they've done a great job over the years of really developing homegrown talent and taking homegrown players seriously and, embedding that in the identity of the club. And so it's just, a real blessing to be able to play here. And, I think I can speak on behalf of Connor as well, to share these moments with your family and friends and, people who supported you growing up. I think that's what makes this all so special and really brings it all together. So I tried not to take any game for granted. It's a huge honor to play here.
I mean, I'm just trying to imagine what it feels like, bearing in mind your upbringing, bearing in mind wearing that shirt that you did when you were in your formative years, bearing in mind you stood on the stands, to have that badge on your heart and to stand in that tunnel as the walkout music starts and the crowd start. I mean, for those of us that'll never feel that, Sean, what go on, tell us what that feels like.
Yeah, no, I'm more than happy to talk about it, and it gives me goosebumps just thinking about that. And unfortunately, this past year was difficult because we weren't able to have fans in the stadium, but it's a special feeling, and you can't fake it. It's just something that just feels so natural and real and authentic. And I also feel like it comes with a lot of responsibility, and it comes with this sort of passion that you can't fabricate. And I think whenever I watch Connor growing up, every time he stepped on the field, it's the same way that I feel as well. And it's just this extra effort that you feel like you have to put forth because you represent something bigger than yourself, than just your career. It's a place that's invested a lot in you, and you feel like you owe it back to the club to perform, and you owe it to the fans, your family, your friends, that you give absolutely everything you possibly can when you put on the jersey. And that's a responsibility and a culture that we've tried to, establish for all the homegrown players, all the academy players, because we represent, a lot more people than just ourselves. And we want to be role models for this club and for those young players that were once, we were once in their shoes, heading to the academy center and, late nights, long drives, just grinding every single day to try to get to this point. And you can't forget those roots, and you just try to represent the academy the best way you know how.
I mean, Connor, in your current role, but also when you were playing as well, as locals, do you feel the pressure to be part of the education process? Because obviously players come in from all over the world. There's been ever-changing sands at the club. But do you think it's important to share those local characteristics and what means what to players wherever they come from in the world?
100%. And I feel like that's the beauty of Sean and myself growing up in this market and kind of where we're located in the New York, New Jersey area. Is that it's such a melting pot of different cultures that really you could throw anyone from any different background in here, and you can find some place to feel comfortable within the area. And it's interesting because you definitely feel some pressure to make sure you're helping the next batch of homegrown players coming up, making sure they're succeeding, because that's what you want. That's our roots. That's where we know, and that's where we come from. And so, not only the homegrowns, but trying to acclimate everyone into our culture. It's definitely not an easy place to come in and fit in right away. There's lots of different things that make our system unique to us, and it takes everyone a little bit of time to adjust to that. Some are quicker than others, but definitely with us being at the club for so long and be able to learn and see it evolve over time, you take a special interest in making sure that you're holding those standards up as high as possible and make sure that the people who come in, you're helping them adjust along the way. And so, Sean's doing a great job of that, obviously being the first homegrown captain in club history. Couldn't have a better representation of what it means to be a homegrown product than Sean, and to be in that role, it's incredible. And he's doing a great job of steering that next generation of homegrown players to make sure that there's a lot more of Sean Davis's coming through.
Well, Connor, are there plenty more of you coming through then? Do you really feel the club is now starting to hit a proper seam where we could see a third of the squad, half the squad over the next decade become locally produced?
Yeah, if you look at our academy, throughout the years, it's been, the best in the area, and it's, competed at a very high level throughout the country, even globally around the world, different tournaments. And I feel like, the opportunities that we're giving younger players these days, it's exciting to be a part of our academy. And, not only with our first team, but our Red Bull 2, you're giving great opportunities to kids who haven't even signed pro contracts. And it's a place that, every young kid wants those opportunities. So it attracts higher level of talent, not only from our area, but from around the country and around the globe, to come to our academy, play under our roof, so that you can have these opportunities. And I think that's what sets us apart from a lot of different academies around the country.
Yeah. Of your supporter base, do you think, Sean, how many do you think actually come from New Jersey? Or do you think because the brand is growing that you are attracting them from other sides of the city? They're coming in from far and wide now.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think that one thing that's helped separate us, and Connor touched on this, is just how much we tap into our local community. And so not only do we have players, we have so many employees. We just have a great culture. And I think that's something that we have to continue to maintain, and something that, makes our club unique. And so as long as we can, and I'm sure you see this in the English game all the time, and how important that is for the fan base, and for people to come to the stadium, know exactly what to expect, to have that camaraderie. I think that's what makes Red Bull so unique, and it makes the game day environment so fun and exciting. And you really feel like you're in it together, not only with the front office staff and the club staff, but also with the fans. And I think that the homegrowns, that pipeline has become a really important pillar for our club, and something that we're only looking to grow. And when the club is able to produce homegrown players that secure minutes and are on the field fighting, and giving the fans someone to truly connect to, I think that inspires a lot of that younger generation to think about a club like Red Bull when they're considering or weighing their future options. And so it almost becomes like a cycle. And, I think that Red Bull has done a great job of continuing to innovate and, investing in that youth player. They have so many unique programs for young players right now, like rideshare programs, tutors, different things like that, things that weren't around when Connor and I were in the academy. And so I think that they're just always trying to find ways to evolve. And, not only are you producing great players, but you're continuing to build on that connection between, the club and its fans. And I think that's really important in connecting with fans across the tri-state area, we call it, fans from New York, from Pennsylvania, from Connecticut. We're able to tap into those communities because they appreciate, our outlook for, what we want the club to look like.
Hold that thought a second. Students, Sean's actually they've got a day off today down in the training camp in Florida. And I'm aware of the fact that although it's 6:15 in the evening here, it's 1:15 lunchtime. And he's holding back from going for his lunch. So questions for both the guys, but particularly if you want to put a question to Sean, can we do it in the next 10 minutes, please? We'll hit him with as many as possible. We'll let him go off and get his lunch, and then we'll finish off with a lot of what Connor is currently up to in his role. Can we, Connor, just go into the characteristics of New Jersey people? Because I guess from afar, those that haven't visited New York will think of the movies and Manhattan, and then probably the walk across the Brooklyn Bridge. And no disrespect to you guys, but probably Jersey would be something we might do on our second trip, unless we were Springsteen fans or something like that. Springsteen's a music artist, you two, that your grandparents were probably in, just in case you don't know.
Oh, come on. We know Springsteen over here. But yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of characteristics that define, being from New Jersey. And I think a lot of those are, people exaggerate from around the country. I think, it's looked down upon sometimes. It's a little brother of New York of sorts, and, might not have the best reputation, but it's home for us. This is, it's almost a great representation of our club. The fact that, a lot of times we're underdogs, and, you can feel that coming through the players that come from our area. That we're hungry. We're, fly under the radar a little bit. We're maybe not seen as, the cream of the crop, but that's what makes us us. But New Jersey is a beautiful place. And I outside of Springsteen, there's a lot more to see for sure. And, I'd encourage everyone to make that the first stop on their trip when you're coming over to see New York. Start with New Jersey, and then you head over to New York, because there's some beautiful places and it doesn't get talked about enough.
Yeah, well, we're already building up a groundswell of momentum. We've already got Joe Stetson, head of commercial and revenue, and Kevin Thelwell coming out from a pint when we do finally make it over to your place. You can come, Connor. It's just one of the hazards of the fact you're still playing, Sean. You're going to have to wait till you're retired before we'll allow you a little
beer. Are you
beer.
sure?
Yeah, sorry, mate. Listen, tell me something. Who would your wider football influences have been, Sean, in kind of growing up? Do you latch on to South American markets, onto European markets? Who would be your kind of your figureheads, your figures of inspiration when you were coming through?
Yeah, Mark, I think you'll really appreciate this answer. And this is a story I like to tell to young players all the time. But my favorite player growing up was Steven Gerrard, playing for Liverpool. And I just love the way that he played the game. He plays center mid, the same position that I grew up playing. And, obviously he's a homegrown player, an academy player, and he captained the club and had a lot of success. And the story that I love telling is that, when I was trying to establish myself, and I had a much different path than, what's traditionally seen in Europe, where I went to college. But when I was trying to break through the first team, unfortunately our captain had gotten injured. And that opened up an opportunity for me. And I started against LA Galaxy in LA. And at the time, I played against Steven Gerrard. And I have a picture, and it was just amazing. And he was a great guy, exactly who I guess I always thought he was. We spoke a little bit after the game, but that's actually the game I scored my first MLS goal in. And so it was a special game for so many reasons. It felt like the first true moment that I kind of cemented myself within the first team level. But yeah, Steven Gerrard, without a doubt, was one of my favorite players. And even days like today, I'll go back and look at clips of his, because I just love the way that he played the game. And, that passion that he played with is something that I try to emulate, when I play for my team.
Okay, so set up beautifully, because Kevin Stimson has joined us. Good evening, Kevin. Said, hi, Sean, would you like to play in England or Europe at some point in your career? I mean, is that on your radar, that you might get that move and go and try your hand away from, from New York?
No, I appreciate the question. And, for us as American players, we're always dreaming about Europe, and we're dreaming about England. It's the league that we watch the most because of, it has top players and a top environment. And, it's a dream for every American player to play in Europe, but it has to be the right situation. And, for me right now, I really appreciate, representing this club that I play for. being the homegrown captain is something special to me, and I really like what we're building right now with our new head coach Gerhard, and he's had success at Barnsley, and I'm sure you're familiar with him, but for now I'm happy with where I'm at. You never know what the future is going to hold, but I'm really looking forward to this season, and working with the new coach and establishing ourselves as a top team within this league.
Yeah, but I put this question to Kevin Thelwell earlier, but my reckoning, your last sort of sports directors, heads of sport, whatever you call the role, I know it's now been split, English currently, Costa Rican before, American before, Scottish before, Norwegian before. How do you cope with that level of cultural change, Sean?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think it's great, and I love the diversity. Some of the coaches that you had mentioned there, I wasn't at the first team yet, but I think that's one of the best things about our sport is how it brings the whole world together, and you have so many different influences, and I'm seeing that right now with our head coach, who is the first Austrian head coach that I've worked under, but to hear about the different ways that they think about things, their different philosophies, their different experiences. Like, I love sitting down with Gerhard and hearing about his path to ending up at the New York Red Bulls. And I think that's what makes our sport so special, is that it really is the world's game. And so to have so many different influences, and I think Connor would be more well-versed in speaking about this because he's had several different head coaches, but I think it's great for character building, and I think that's what makes, especially in MLS, our club so unique.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you why it's interesting, Connor, because I guess for some, if there's a major change of regime, some will see it as a threat, others will see it as an opportunity. When a new coach gets appointed, there'll be ripples that become, quite large ruminations through the dressing room, and everybody's got their own window on the world.
For sure. I think you nailed it on the head there. You have the opportunity to take it as exactly an opportunity, or you can be scared by it. And I think the biggest thing for us as a club, that the standards never change. No matter who's at the helm, we know the standard. I think the best thing right now, and probably in the past 5-6 years, is our identity has never changed. Maybe in the past, of the club, the identity could have shifted with the manager coming in and the different regimes. But right now, our identity hasn't changed. It's just evolving. So we like to consider it, we're sticking to our principles. We know what can make us successful in this league, but it's just about tinkering those little things along the way. And each manager is going to bring that in, each, executive along the way. And so I feel like we've had a great mix of different people coming through who have left their mark on this organization for the better. And I feel like you're seeing those benefits right now. And we know this 2021 season is going to be great.
Yeah. Okay then, Sean. So Kevin shared with us earlier, he said one of the key sort of pillars guiding you all is to turn the club into the reference point for soccer in North America. You get these grand visions get shared with you, so they're there in the background driving you all through every season.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, what makes our club so unique is we have a clear philosophy. We have a clear idea of who we want to be. And that's helpful for players, that clarity. But like Connor touched on, it doesn't change too much because the expectations for each player at the club are very high. And that's to show up every single day and work. And, I know that sounds like a very cliche answer, and especially in sports, but in talking to other players around the league, whether that's friends of mine that I grew up playing with or transfers in, I think they all have one thing in common, and that's that Red Bull plays differently and we train differently. And there's a certain intensity that's required every single day. And I think that's what's ultimately going to allow us to drive this thing forward as much as possible. And so integrating.
Okay. I got to stop you there because you mentioned how challenging it was, Connor, and now you're saying we play and train differently. Sean, what do you mean? What specifically are you doing that is a challenge to get into when you first arrive and is so tough on a day-to-day basis? What is it about you guys?
So I know that Jurgen Klopp has called it heavy metal football at Liverpool, right? But I think we take it a step further. And I think that, if you watch a team like Leipzig or Salzburg play in Europe, you'll see that they have a high intensity against the ball. And so, one thing we talk about a lot is that our best playmaker is counter pressing. And that means winning the ball back after immediately losing it, suffocating the opponent throughout the game, making them uncomfortable. And that's something that a lot of teams, they don't have the physical capacity to do because they don't train for it. For us, it's essential to train hard so that we're prepared to go 90 minutes, full throttle, a heavy foot on the gas, and really go after it. And it's empowering as a player. It takes time to adjust to that style, though, because not many teams are that aggressive against the ball. And so for new players, there's a lot of video that they have to do. There's a lot of physical conditioning they have to get accustomed to. And there's just this certain intensity and competitiveness in training every single day. And, I think that's something that I've really come to enjoy, knowing that every single day is going to be a challenge. And, like you mentioned earlier, you can embrace a coaching change or you can be fearful of it. And for us, our motto is to just go after it every single day. And again, that's something that's a little cliche and, said a little too often in sports, but I think that's a motto that's something that's integral to how we approach every single day, every single training session, and every single game. And, it's not easy at first, but I think players come to love it here.
Connor, I hope you don't mind. I'm just going to do a couple more questions to Sean because I don't want Gerhard or don't want Kevin on the phone to me saying he hasn't had his nutrition or anything. Joe, hello, Joe. Joe says, Sean, you captained Duke University. The college sports system in the US is so different to what it's like in the UK. What was your experience like of going through this system? Do you think it's a better model to the UK system, which is based solely on club academies? Interesting.
Amazing question. And, especially for your audience, I could talk about this all day. I'll try to give you a short answer.
Well, you're the one that's got to go for lunch, mate. If you want to give us a long answer, we're fine.
Sit back, relax. So in America, there's a very different system for youth players, right? And we're slowly adapting and, taking traits from the European system where you have academies and you're immediately moving to the first team. And I think that that's really important in terms of us producing young talent and ultimately becoming a leading football country, right? And having success at not only the club level, but at the national team level and at World Cups. And it's going to take time to get there. But I think we are slowly evolving, and you're seeing that with the Red Bulls Academy. But then you also have to think about players in Europe who are right on the brink. Maybe they're not quite ready to go pro, but they do have potential to one day contribute at that level, but they need a little bit more time. And that's the bucket that I would put myself in. And so when I was 17 or 18, it was time for me to decide, should I take a lower end contract with not much security, or should I pursue a degree at a university where, I would get that some experience paid for. And for me, I just had an honest talk with myself, and I knew that I needed a little bit more development. And so I decided to pursue my degree, which was also important to my parents, because soccer at the time, it's not the highest paying job. It's not the most secure job. The league has come such a long way since then. This was back in 2009, 2010 when I had to make this decision. And university proved to be the best decision possible for me. I was challenged in the classroom and I was challenged on the field. I got a lot of minutes, but also I met some amazing people. And you can already start to understand that I have a great appreciation for different cultures and different experiences. And that's what university provided me. And I met people from all over the world. I grew as a person, grew as a player. And after 3.5 years, I was able to sign directly for the New York Red Bulls. And that was the path that worked best for me. And I think that it's healthy to have options as a younger player. And so even though we're finding some great talent that are immediately ready to make the jump to the first team and get those minutes at the USL level, which is our version of, the championship. I mean, it's certainly not the same level as the championship, but it's an opportunity for young players to get professional minutes against more experienced players. That wasn't around when Connor and I were youth players. And so to have that infrastructure built out now, I think it just provides more options for younger players to decide between. And, that only benefits the players. So at this time, you know, even speaking with some of the younger academy guys that have just signed here and you know, I've gotten to know during preseason, you know, they had several different options. They could have went to college on full scholarships, or they could sign for the youth, for the first team. And some of them sign for the first team, some of them pursue a different route. But I think it's great to have that amount of options. And, you know, I think that could be beneficial for even Europe, you know, to give that opportunity to players that maybe aren't quite ready, but could be late bloomers. And, you know, luckily for me, it worked out. But like I said, everyone's journey is different, and, you know, to each their own. There's a lot of different ways you can go about it. And, you know, I'm happy with my path, and I'm sure Connor would say the same.